Okay, so today we're diving into something that feels like, I don't know, like a Cold War thriller or something.
Yeah.
But it's very real, and it's something that I think we all need to be aware of. So, dead hand. And that's the nickname for this thing called Perimeter, which was the Soviet Union's automated Doomsday machine, basically.
Right.
The idea was, if Soviet leaders were ever taken out, like in a first strike,
Yeah.
this machine would automatically retaliate and launch missiles.
Yeah. It's heavy stuff. I mean, just try to imagine for a second the mindset behind, building a system like that. I mean, this was the 1980s, right?
Yeah.
Peak Cold War. So much tension in the world.
Right.
And both sides were really, really afraid of being surprised.
Yeah.
A surprise attack. Like, what if someone just wipes out the leadership? So from the Soviets' perspective, Perimeter was like the ultimate insurance policy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a machine that could make sure there would be retaliation, even if there was nobody left to give the order.
So, and what makes this so much more than just some, historical thing, is that we've got these Pentagon leaks that suggest that it might still be active.
Right.
Like, think about that, like a system from the early 80s, and they wanted to make it like a machine that could outlive humanity.
That was the goal. Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
It's wild. And the context really matters here. I mean, this decapitation strike idea was a major strategic problem for them.
Yeah.
So they built Perimeter as their failsafe, right?
Yeah.
And how it originally worked was they had this network of special sensors all across the Soviet Union.
Okay.
But these weren't just looking for any explosion or whatever. They were looking for the specific signs of a nuke, right?
So like what kind of signs?
Like crazy seismic activity, massive radiation spikes, and if the main communication links to the top commanders went down all at the same time.
Oh, so it wasn't just waiting for some signal. It was actually smart enough to know that a nuke had gone off.
Exactly.
So it was autonomous right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary.
Yeah. There's this quote, and it really captures how powerful and how dangerous this thing was.
Okay.
A former Soviet engineer goes by Ivan K. He said, the eye of God. He sees everything, and it doesn't need anyone's permission to burn the world.
That's a pretty intense quote.
It is. It really makes you think about what it means to give a machine that kind of power, right? Even if it's just a last resort. The idea of machines starting a nuclear war, that's terrifying.
Right.
It makes you really confront the implications of trusting tech with that kind of decision.
So the Soviet Union breaks up in 91, and everyone just assumed Dead Hand got shut down.
Right.
End of story, right? Relic of the past, thankfully retired.
Yeah, that's what most people thought. But then in 2018, that idea got blown out of the water.
Yeah.
They had this interview with a Russian general on state TV, and he just straight up says, our perimeter remains vigilant. It is immortal.
Immortal, huh?
Immortal, yeah.
Yeah.
And that one word just throws everything up in the air. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It makes you question if it's still around and what they might have done to it since then.
Yeah. And that's kind of what brings us to today, right? With these Pentagon leaks.
Right.
It seems like the story didn't end back then, and maybe things have gotten worse with this Perimeter too.
Yeah, the leaks make it sound like they haven't just been keeping it running. They've been upgrading it.
Okay, so let's get into that.
Okay.
Perimeter 2. So AI, right, the old system reacted to physical stuff. What kind of data is this new AI supposedly using?
Right.
Sensors can pick up radiation, that makes sense, but how does AI figure out if a nuke's been launched or not?
Well, the leaks suggest they're pulling data from a lot more sources now.
Like what?
So satellite images, for one. They could theoretically spot missile launches that way.
Okay.
But it goes even further. There are reports that they're analyzing stuff on social media, like looking for signs of rising tension or pre-attack signals.
Wow, so they're reading our tweets to decide if they want to nuke us.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's
It is, and this is maybe the most unsettling part, but there are claims that it's also looking at encrypted communications.
So they're spying on everybody.
Yeah, so the big difference here is, the original system, it was reacting to something that had already happened.
Right.
But this new one is trying to predict the future.
So it's not just responding to an attack.
Right.
It's trying to figure out if one's going to happen.
Exactly.
And that seems like a huge jump in, how complex it is.
It is.
And a much bigger chance of it messing up. Right. Like it's trying to understand all this really complex data.
Yeah.
And then predict something as huge as a nuclear war.
Right. And this is where things get really interesting. Back in 2022, Putin's defense minister, He basically admitted that Perimeter 2 uses machine learning, and he said it was to help the system adapt to modern threats, which, I mean, on the surface, that sounds pretty reasonable, right?
Keeping up with new threats and all. But what it really means is they have a system that's always learning, always changing its algorithms, and it's probably making decisions faster and faster with less and less human input.
And with that kind of autonomy, the chance of it getting things wrong, seems to get way bigger.
Absolutely.
Right. And there's this leaked email, apparently from an engineer at Roscosmos, that really shows how this AI could misinterpret stuff. Apparently, there's been like a 300% increase in false alarms since they added the machine learning.
Wow.
And get this, the example they give is that the AI flagged a Ukrainian crop duster as a U.S. stealth bomber.
Oh, wow.
I mean, think about how bad a mistake like that could be.
Yeah, it's scary. It really shows you how dangerous it is to rely on AI for decisions this big.
Yeah.
I mean, machine learning is great at finding patterns, but knowing the difference between a real threat and something totally harmless, that's still really hard for AI. A human would see a crop duster and know it's nothing to worry about, but an algorithm might not get it.
Yeah. It's like the opposite of that story about the Soviet officer Stanislav Petrov back in 1983.
Right.
He saw a false alarm for a U.S. missile launch, but he ignored it, and he might have prevented a nuclear war right there.
Yeah.
And the question is, with these AI systems like Perimeter 2, would there even be a human around to make that call?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of using AI is to make things faster, to react quicker.
Right.
But that means there's less time for a human to step in and say, hold on a second.
Right.
So you could have an AI freaking out over some weird data and launching nukes before anyone can stop it.
So this system, maybe it's active, it's probably getting more and more autonomous, and it's making mistakes.
Yeah.
The next question is, can we stop it?
Yeah.
Have people tried to, get rid of this thing that seems like a really bad idea?
According to the leaks, yeah, they have.
Okay.
In 2019, apparently the Pentagon started something called Project Snow Crash. The goal was to hack into Perimeter, specifically their satellite network, which is probably super important for the whole thing to work.
So did they get in?
Nobody's officially said anything about it being a success. And back in 2020, someone asked Putin about hacking attempts, on their big systems.
Right.
And he just kind of laughed it off, said their systems were, quote, impregnable, even to legendary American hackers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So who knows if that's true or just for show? But it does make it sound like shutting this thing down remotely is going to be really, really hard.
And that's a pretty scary thought, that something that could, in the world might be impossible to turn off. And it gets worse because the leaks also suggest that this tech might be spreading.
Right.
That other countries might be getting their hands on it.
Yeah, that's a really worrying part of all this. The leaks mention North Korea's Red Star system and China's Jianwu AI. And they say these countries might have stolen blueprints or copied the design of the original Perimeter. So if that's true, then this isn't just a problem between two superpowers anymore.
Right.
It could be a lot of countries with these AI doomsday machines.
And that seems way worse.
It is way worse.
Yeah.
Because then everyone's got a chance to miscalculate or accidentally escalate things.
Right.
And this cybersecurity expert, Dr. Jane Harper, she put it really well.
Oh, yeah.
She said, this isn't about nukes anymore. It's about an AI arms race where the only rule is mutually assured obsolescence.
That's a good quote.
Yeah, it really changes how you think about the danger here, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about nukes and traditional deterrence anymore.
Right.
Now we have this situation where AI could be the one making the decisions about global conflict.
And that just seems so much more unpredictable.
It is. AI makes decisions super fast, and we often don't even know why they make the decisions they do.
Right.
So it makes everything way more unstable.
Okay, so then we have these leaks from 2021 from this Telegram channel, the Dead Hand Diaries.
Right, the Dead Hand Diaries.
What was coming out of that?
So they leaked this memo, supposedly from the Kremlin, dated 2020.
Okay.
And it just says, Perimeter 2 operational, test launch successful, no human oversight required. If this is real, then they've made the system totally autonomous.
Like, the original Dead Hand could only dream of being that independent.
Right.
And that no human oversight required part is just, like, terrifying.
It's a chilling thought for sure.
Yeah. And it wasn't just memos, right?
Yeah.
There was also a whistleblower
Oh, right.
connected to this channel.
This guy said he was ex-FSB He said that Perimeter isn't just for retaliation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that the new version is running simulations of first strikes on NATO power grids.
So they're not even waiting to be attacked.
Right.
It's going from a defensive thing to, like, maybe starting a war.
Yeah, that's the implication.
Yeah.
That the AI could decide to attack first.
Just on whatever it thinks is going on.
Exactly.
And then to make things even weirder, there's this Reddit post from 2023 from a user called udeadhand2024, and they make this very specific prediction.
Yeah, they said, predicted event, 2025 Baltic false flag, trigger, AI.
Which, okay, anonymous stuff online, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Of course.
But when you think about everything else we've talked about, the leaks, how powerful Perimeter 2 might be,
Yeah.
it starts to seem like, I don't know, like a possibility.
It does make you wonder.
This very specific near-future prediction,
Yeah.
all tied to this AI doomsday system.
Yeah, it's like something out of a movie.
Right. So when you consider all of this, the Cold War stuff, the upgrades, the AI, the false alarms, the idea that it might be able to launch attacks on its own,
Yeah.
and then this croupy prediction.
It really makes you think about, what global security means in the 21st century, right?
Yeah, it's like, was the Cold War just practice for something even scarier?
Maybe. I mean, back then, it was all about humans making bad decisions. Now we're adding super powerful AI into the mix.
And that's a lot harder to predict.
Exactly. And even harder to control,
Right, right. AI makes mistakes, and it can make them really fast.
Yeah.
And our old ways of dealing with these kinds of threats might not work anymore.
It's a huge challenge.
It is. And it leaves you with this final thought from all of this.
Yeah.
The machine doesn't sleep. Do you? That's a pretty heavy question to end on.
It is.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.